Most churches are either afraid of AI or unsure of how to use it. But what if it could actually be a great help for you in your ministry? Let's demystify it a little bit in today's video. In today's video, I'm going to give you 4 ways that AI can be a great assistant for you in your ministry. But first, let's talk a little bit about what actually is AI. Should you be afraid of it? Should you be wary of it? That's usually the way that most people come across when we're talking about it in terms of church ministry, because messaging is super important in church ministry. And so the idea of handing it over to somebody else or over to a machine feels kind of scary. Not to mention, we've seen enough sci-fi videos that surely we should all be a little bit afraid of this, right?
That's right.
What I want to do is demystify what AI actually is when we talk about it in today's context, how to use it safely, and then provide 4 use cases for how AI can be used in a really great way to help you out as a leader in your church ministry. So what is AI? You may know that AI stands for artificial intelligence, but what does that actually mean? I've actually come to find that the name is something of a misnomer. Artificial intelligence kind of implies something that this is not. What we're talking about is machine learning. We're talking about programs that are designed, that are programmed to be able to learn from the data that is inputted. And so more and more these programs are not so much building themselves, but gathering more and more information to be able to use for what they're asked to return. When computers were first created in the 1940s as code cracking devices during World War II, ever since then, computers have developed in a certain way. This is what Mark Zuckerberg and other tech CEOs call the new form of computing. And more, this is how computers are going to work. If you're going to continue to use computers, you're going to continue to use AI programs. And it turns out that this new way of computing is not going anywhere because it increases the abilities of computers to be helpful in an incredible way. I'm someone who is fascinated by AI. I love new tech. I love looking into these things. And just as a disclaimer for you, I'm a person who's really cautious when I introduce new technology into a system at a church, into a team. So what I'm not advocating is that you just openly and blindly say, I'm going to use this and not think about it. I want you to think about the ways that this could be a good thing and the ways that it could be a bad thing. And that's what we're going to explore in the rest of this video. So I have ChatGPT open in front of me. ChatGPT is kind of the most ubiquitous AI because it was one of the first that launched this kind of consumer available AI tools. ChatGPT can do image generation as well as a lot of other things. And if you haven't seen OpenAI's new release video for what ChatGPT can actually do now, you should go and watch those. They're really cool. Some people might find them a little scary if you're into the whole like robot sci-fi thing, but I think it's really cool. One of the best ways that I've learned how to use AI, as I've been experimenting for the past several months, for the past year, I've learned that it's all about how you prompt it. I saw this on an Instagram reel sometimes. I'm sorry, I can't give attribution because I don't know who this was from, but I do see the value in this and I use this. What you want to do is first state your goal. 2, define the format you want the AI to return. 3, warn against complications. And then 4, dump any context you want. Okay, so goal, format, warnings, context. So let's dive into 4 uses that AI is great for in the context of church ministry and 4 uses that it's not. So first, AI is not a good pastor, but it is a great brainstormer. You've probably heard of people using AI to write sermons. I don't think that's a great thing. There is definitely moral gray area in how much you let a robot lead you. Now, I believe in common grace. I believe that the Lord uses many things, including technology, to make our lives better. And I believe that there is such a sure foundation that we're on as Christians that there's got to be some level in which the rise of AI as a tool for humanity has to be a good thing in some ways, and I'm sure it's going to be negative in a lot of other ways. But what I've found is that one of the best things that I can use AI for is to brainstorm. Now, here's how this works. Let's say you're talking about a brief. If you're a creative, you're talking about a brief from a client, from a different ministry. Instead of spending 60 minutes of my valuable time brainstorming ideas, I could use a couple of minutes. Let's create a scenario here. Let's talk about coming up with sermon ideas. Now, here is a way that we can prompt AI for sermon ideas. Let's state our goal first. I want 10 ideas for a sermon series on Galatians. Galatians is a pretty small book. Then I'm going to hold shift and press return a couple of times just to keep things organized for myself. Now we're going to define the format we want to return. I'm going to say return each idea individually with a title, short paragraph, description. Now I'm going to warn it what I don't want. Be careful not to simply provide topical suggestions. Our church believes in the importance of expositional preaching so that the Bible is what guides us more than our own ideas. So use resources such as TGC commentaries, as well as other Reformed sources to craft ideas that encompass the biblical author's main points of Galatians. And then any other context that I need to dump. We are a non-denominational church. If I could spell, this would make this a lot easier. In rural Indiana. So we love practicality and simplicity over complexity. All right, let's see what this gives us. We're going to do this in real time here. All right, here are 10 expositional sermon series ideas on the book of Galatians, each with a title and a brief description. First, freedom in Christ, embracing the true gospel. Explore how Paul's letter to the Galatians emphasizes that salvation comes through faith in Jesus Christ alone, not by works of the law. This will highlight the believer's freedom from legalism and the call to live by grace. Pretty cool idea. Let me go through these real quick and let's see how many of these are actually good. No other gospel, love that. Justified by faith, adopted as sons, walking by the Spirit, the law and the promise, understanding God's. There you have it. There's 10 ideas. Honestly, these, I'm not so sure about these subtitles for each of these, but pretty much any of these would be a great example. I can recognize where these come from the text in Galatians, which is pretty cool. And I think we got there because of the format of stating a clear goal, telling it what format we wanted to return, and then giving it warnings to constrain it. If I had not given it this warning here to use TGC commentaries that are available online, as well as other Reformed sources to craft expositional ideas, we would have gotten completely different ideas. However, because I warned it in this way, it's actually a really cool return. I can imagine getting this. This is 10 solid title ideas to wrap together a theme that you can then take and refine on your own. But that's potentially hours of work right there. And in such a way that I don't think I'm being influenced by the AI to tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I've got a great ground to start working on, right? So I think it's really cool. I think brainstorming is one of the best uses of AI that there are. I use this all the time when I'm thinking about what is possible to do. Here's number 2. AI is not a great discerner, but it's a great researcher. So here's what I mean. Now that I have these title ideas, I need to start doing research to see which one of these is going to be the best one for where we're going with our sermon series. Now, I'm not a pastor. I'm not pretending to be a pastor, but I'm trying to give you guys a use case here. I don't want AI to do discernment work for me, but I am happy to let it do research work for me because, again, it's speeding up my workflow in this case. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go with our format again. We're going to give it a goal. How about let's give it a goal for, let's do this. Compile 10 resources for me to study in preparing this sermon series. Return each resource by title, author, and whether I can read it online or need to find it in a book. Vary the number of online and print resources and include Reformed commentaries such as TGC and Crossway and let's do this, ESV. Let's give it a warning. I feel like I've already been pretty clear here. Well, here, let's do it. Let's talk about budget. Do not give me super expensive commentary suggestions that I may not already have given the Reformed modern context I've already given you. I don't want to have to buy a lot, but I am willing to buy 1 or 2 new resources. This might work, this might not work. We'll find out. Dump any context. Really, there's not any more context to dump. So here we go. Let's see what it does. Whoa, it went for Martin Luther and R.C. Sproul first. All right. Zondervan by Schreiner, Epistle of Paul. Cool. I haven't heard most of these, but I do recognize some of these names. Ligonier Ministries, Zondervan, available for purchase. Okay, so here's the sources. There we go. Top 5 commentaries on the book of Galatians from Ligonier Ministries. Best commentaries from Logos, Gospel Coalition. I mean, it's pulling from the resources that I want it to be pulling from. Summarize primary argument each of the authors above makes. Return one short paragraph for each resource. If you do not have good access to be able to summarize the information in these resources, do not skip it. Tell me you don't have what you need and move on to the next one. Okay. Luther passionately defends the doctrine of justice by faith alone, justification by faith alone, arguing that salvation is granted through faith in Christ without reliance on the works of the law. He emphasizes Christian freedom from legalistic practices and underscores the transformative power of grace in the believer's life. I mean, that's great. Some of these, it didn't have sufficient information because it can't get behind a paywall to be able to read some of these things, but these ones especially, these are probably already out there where it's easy to get to them. I'm pretty impressed by that. That's pretty cool. So now let's talk about number 3. Again, AI is not a good decision maker for you, but it is a good optimizer. AI has already been optimizing my workflow, but here's what we're going to do to take this even further. So now we're going to start a new prompt, create a potential sermon series calendar for the book of Galatians. Return as a table with columns such as week 1 text and summary. Do not make interpretive decisions about which text goes where. Use available resources above to break the text up into common divisions for me to decide about. I want to context dump. I want to get a head start what this series could look like, but do not want you to do too much heavy lifting for it. Okay, 12 weeks using commonly accepted text divisions found in Reichen, Schreiner, Moo, and Luther's expository outlines. Week 1 is the greeting. All right, you could take that and start to work through it. I mean, and then it allows you to make the decisions. But I mean, look at all the information that I just started with. In 20 minutes, and it's only 20 minutes because I'm talking to you guys, I have potential titles, I have resources to look into, and even the beginnings of a calendar that I could break this up into. Now, I'm highlighting here, this is just a brand new form of computing. There is no other resource that I'd be able to use to get all of this information other than an AI program that is designed as a brainstormer, a researcher, and an optimizer. So here's what I'm trying to get at. AI is not a good replacement for you, but it is a great assistant for you. So I think through this lens, there is a lot that AI has to offer for the church. Now, I'm using preaching as an example because I might be talking to pastors here generally who might be making decisions in their churches. Think about the potentials for creatives. I use this every single day. I do use it for things like writing copy for things, giving me a first draft so I don't have to take the time to do it while I'm working on something else in the meantime. I use it for brainstorming ideas. I use it for helping me to brainstorm visual references for certain Bible passages or for certain projects. I use it to do research on topics so that I can be going on in the background. And when you're prompting the way that I am, you are doing the work of discerning for it so that it's looking at resources that you wanted to look at, even though it might also pick out some resources that you may not have chosen, but that are helpful for you in the end. There's just so many possibilities here that if you begin to use AI as an assistant for you and your ministry, I mean, sky's kind of the limit. Now, I hope it's obvious, I'm not trying to tell you what you should or should not do. But I think that oftentimes when we don't understand something, there's just a little bit of that very natural fear that comes with, I don't understand it, I don't know how to use it. Is this a good thing? It's up to you, if you're on church staff, to make good wisdom decisions about what you bring into your church and what could help form the people around you, whether you're a pastor or a church staffer, if you're on a creative team or not. These kind of things are really important. The speed at which technology changes has increased over the last few decades, and it makes it harder and harder for us to make really good wisdom decisions about what to use. My goal in this is just to hopefully demystify a little bit of maybe some of the unnecessary fears. You can read on OpenAI and on all these other sources. Of course, there are safety concerns. This is still very brand new, but we are starting to get some traction with these things. I think there are some great interviews that you can listen to. I'll link them in the show notes below to hear some of the interviews I've listened to recently as I'm wrestling what's important and what's maybe important to stay away from when it comes to AI. I think one of the best things I heard was actually in an interview between Cleo Abram, a journalist, and Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta. And she asked him, are we losing something very human by using AI to solve hurdles for us, right? And so she was talking about AI translation and the struggle that it is for us to learn another language. Are we losing something that's deeply human by not having to struggle for the language? His response was really intriguing to me. What he said was, you can look at it that way for sure. And you might be losing something, but there might also be a different hurdle for you to jump on the other side of that first one that you couldn't even see because you weren't getting over the first hurdle. So what we're talking about is, which hurdle do you want to have to work through? Which hurdle are you going to continue growing from? And which hurdle do you need to get over quicker so that you can get to what's most important, to what only you can do? I use AI to optimize my workflow in a lot of different ways because right now I'm very short on time, especially as Easter is getting closer and closer. And it's given me a great opportunity to start testing some of these programs. I think it's a great tool. I hope that you see that as well. And I hope that if you start to engage with it, that it becomes very helpful for you in your ministry. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.